Happy New Year, everyone! I hope you had a wonderful break and you're feeling ready for what's ahead. Welcome to What No One Tells You. I'm Claudia Slujitoru and this is episode 7. And today I want to talk about how to actually use January to set yourself up for a great year instead of burning out your team in the first 3 weeks trying to prove something. Because here's the thing. January is not like other months, and pretending it is means you're going to waste the opportunity to build real momentum that actually lasts through Q1 and beyond. This is the podcast for managers who want to actually succeed instead of just looking busy. So let's talk about how to make this month work for you. So what happens is that most managers come back from holiday thinking they need to immediately prove that the break didn't slow them down. And what they do is they push hard from day one. They set aggressive goals in week 1 and they expect their team to be running at full capacity the moment everyone's back at their desk. And what happens is that by February, they're wondering why everything feels harder than it should and why their team seems less engaged than they were hoping for at the start of a fresh year. But here's what the good managers understand. January is actually your setup month. It's when you build a foundation that makes everything else work. And if you use these first few weeks right, you'll have momentum that carries you through the entire quarter while other managers are still trying to recover from their false start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a framework that works whether you're managing a production line, a finance team, an IT department, a store, a lab, or anything else. This is about how teams actually work. It's not about what industry you're in. Week 1, get your baseline clear. The first week back, your focus is on understanding where things actually stand right now, not where you wish they stood or where they're supposed to stand according to the plan from December. And what I mean by this is that you're looking at your operation with fresh eyes. What's working smoothly? What needs immediate attention? What got delayed or shifted during the break? And you're not trying to fix everything at once. You're just getting a clear picture. In your team meeting this week, you're asking questions and listening more than you're announcing plans. You're saying something like, let's spend this week making sure we're all clear on priorities and where we stand, and then next week we'll talk about where we're going. That's a completely different energy than coming with demands and deadlines. And what this does, it gives you actual information to work with instead of assumptions, and it tells your team that you care about reality more than you care about looking impressive. In week 2, you talk to your people, but you really talk. And this is when you have real conversations with your team members. And I don't mean performance reviews disguised as check-ins. I mean you're actually finding out how they're doing with being back and what they need in order to do their best work. And you're asking things like, what's feeling manageable right now and what's feeling overwhelming? Or what do you need from me this month to be set up well? And then you're actually listening to the answers without immediately trying to solve everything or tell them they shouldn't feel that way. Week 3, plan based on what's real. Now you're ready to do proper planning for Q1, but you're doing it with actual information about your team's capacity and your operations' current state instead of just copying what you did last quarter or what your boss hopes you can do. You're setting goals that are challenging but actually achievable given where you are right now. You're building in some buffer because you know that Q1 always has unexpected challenges. Equipment breaks down, people get sick, suppliers have delays, systems have issues, whatever it is in your world, and you're thinking about how to build momentum over time instead of expecting peak performance immediately. This is when you go to a manager with a plan that's thought through and realistic, and here is what you can say. So here is what we can deliver at high quality this quarter based on actual capacity, and here is how this is setting us up to accelerate as we go. Now let me tell you why this approach gets you better results than the traditional go hard from day one approach that most managers tend to do. When you give your team that first week to stabilize and get clear on priorities, they're not spending energy pretending to be at full capacity while secretly struggling. They're actually getting back into the rhythm, which means by week 2, they're genuinely more engaged instead of just pretending harder. When you spend week 2 really listening and understanding where people are, you get information that helps you make smart decisions about how you can handle what, and your team feels like you actually see them as people instead of just resources to deploy. And when you plan in week 3, based on all this real information, you create a roadmap that your team actually believes in because it matches the reality, which means they're committed to do instead of quietly being skeptical about whether it's even possible. The managers who rush through January trying to prove something usually end up spending February and March dealing with the consequences, which can be low morale, missed deadlines, having to revise plans, explaining to their manager why things aren't going as expected. The managers who use January to build properly end up with teams that are more engaged, more productive, and more likely to actually deliver what they committed to. Now, I know that some of you might be thinking, my manager doesn't accept a realistic plan. They want aggressive targets. And I totally get it. That pressure can be real. But here's what you need to understand. When you come to your manager in week 3 with a plan that's based on actual capacity and real conditions, you're not saying, we cannot do much. You're saying, here is what we can deliver well, and here is my thinking behind it. And most of the time, when you present a thoughtful, realistic plan, your manager is actually relieved because they know the aggressive fantasy timelines don't really make sense either. And they're just waiting for someone to have the courage to say it. And if your manager still pushes back and insists on the unrealistic goals, now you have a clear conversation about what resources or changes you need to do to hit those targets instead of just saying yes and hoping it works out. So here's what I want you to do for January. Think of January as your foundation month, not your proof month. You're not trying to show everyone how productive you can be in week 1. You're building the conditions that make sustained productivity possible for the next 3 months. And you're not trying to immediately hit peak performance. You're creating the momentum that builds the peak performance by the time it really matters. And you're not pretending that everyone snaps back to full capacity the moment they walk in the door. You're working with how humans actually work and building from there. Do this right, and by March you'll be delivering results while other managers are still explaining why they are behind. And your team will actually want to work with you instead of quietly dreading your next big push. You've got this. This has been What No One Tells You, the podcast where we talk about the real challenges of management, the ones that don't make it into corporate training but show up every single day in your work. I'm Claudia Slujitoru, and my mission is to give you the practical tools and honest conversations that actually help you lead better, not just sound better in meetings. If this episode helped you to see January differently, share it with another manager who's feeling that pressure to sprint out of the gate. They'll thank you for it. And here's to making 2026 the year you lead with intention instead of just reacting to expectations.